Walter Elias Disney, better known to most as Walt Disney, accomplished a variety of things over the course of his life. From selling sketches to neighbors as a child to opening up Disneyland in Anaheim, California at the age of 53, he had a variety of life experiences before he died at the age of 65 in 1966. Disney dropped out of high school when he was 16 years old with plans to join the military during World War I, but was denied because the age to enlist was 18. He decided to join the Red Cross instead and became an ambulance driver in France for a year. When he came back to the States after working with the Red Cross, he received a scholarship to the Kansas City Art Institute, and he began to really go in depth with his work in animation. He partnered with a man named Oogd Iwerks, who he met at the Kansas City Art Institute, and they partnered up with the Newman theater chain, and they started Newman Laugh-O-Grams. The company eventually went bankrupt, but that was his first real dive into the animation industry. And one day he was coming home from working with the Laugh-O-Grams in 1928, and he developed Mickey Mouse. Mickey, when he first came out, premiered in 3 short comic films, and the first 2 were completely unsuccessful, and there's nothing really known about them. The third was Steamboat Willie, and it was a huge success. It was the first cartoon to ever be synchronized to sound, and Walt himself actually played the voice of Mickey and continued to for the next 19 years. After that, an English actor ended up taking over the role, and then Walt came back to play Mickey for another 5 years when the TV series The Mickey Mouse Club premiered on television. He started the cartoon series Silly Symphonies, which was a really big deal for Walt Disney and his company because the episode Flowers and Trees was the first cartoon short ever to be produced in full color and to win an Oscar. So that was a really big deal for his career. Walt held the patent for Technicolor for 2 years after the Flowers and Trees episode came out, so no one else could produce a cartoon in color until his patent was up. Walt actually holds the record for Oscar nominations with 52 nominations and 22 wins, so that's a really big deal. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was a huge thing for Walt Disney's career and his success. In 1934, something known as Disney's Folly, which was going around Hollywood, which was when he was determined to create a feature-length cartoon film, and everybody said that it would never happen. He wanted it to be fully in color, wanted it to have sound, synchronized sound to it, and everybody said it could never happen. Well, in 1937, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs came out and ended up being the solution to Disney's Folly. It won him 8 Oscars, and it was produced during the Great Depression, and it cost $1,499,000 to produce at that time. When it premiered, it earned him $8 million, and to date, it's earned $130 million. Disney had a lot of partnerships with the federal government, and he produced training films for the military and propaganda films that urged citizens to pay their taxes. He also did anti-Hitler shorts to boost U.S. morale. He also worked with the State Department to improve relations with South America. On a goodwill tour, he had a specially made movie produced, and it was called Saludos Amigos, which was just for the goodwill tour through South America. And he also worked with NASA, which this was one of my favorite things of his partnerships, and he did develop documentaries on the space program that they have. And then Disneyland. Everybody's heard of Disneyland, whether you've dreamt about it, you've been there, or you've talked about it with somebody. It actually opened in 1955 on July 17th, and it was an invitation-only premiere. There were 28,000 guests at Disneyland's opening day because there were counterfeit tickets produced. There was only supposed to be about 2,000 people, and they were all supposed to come in at certain times. They all came in at 8 o'clock in the morning when the gates opened, so there were a lot of disasters that day. Then actor and former President Ronald Reagan welcomed Disney onto the stage as he introduced and christened his 160-acre theme park. When Disneyland was first opened, there were 5 themed lands and 18 attractions. To date, there are 8 themed lands and 53 attractions, is what it has grown to. Disneyland in California is the only park that was planned, operated, opened, and designed by Walt Disney himself. All of the other 11 parks, the most recent opened in 2005 in Hong Kong, were all part of the Disneyland Corporation, but were not developed by Disney. The only other one he had started any planning for was the Walt Disney World in Florida, which he died 4 years before it opened. So over Walt's 65 years, he accomplished more than most. Working with the government, opening one of the most famous theme parks in the world, and being a pioneer in the animation industry are just a few of the things this creative man offered the world.
I think that was over 6 minutes.